All right, all right, all right. Dominicans, where are you at this time? Wherever you are, Dominicans, it's always a pleasure, my pleasure, to have you in the listening and viewing audience each and every Saturday from just about that time. It's just about 5 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock in Dominica and the rest of our region. And so that is where I always see a special greetings, a special welcome to all of you in the viewing and listening audience at this time. It's the 17th day of what? February, yes. And that is where we got to make a run for it for yet another Saturday Night Live with yours truly right here on that space, that social media space. That is the Facebook Live platform that I always go live Saturday and also uploaded on YouTube thereafter. So those of you who don't know that program is also uploaded on YouTube, maybe a couple hours after that program is aired live here on Facebook. All right, so all those of you in the viewing audience, thank you very much. Dominicans, primarily, I'm feeling a bit heavy this afternoon, and I will tell you just why I'm feeling a bit heavy. We will go into some discussions about that heaviness, but it is all because of when good men, and in addition women as well, remain silent, then evil tend to prevail. And that is the premise, that is the platform, that is the primary reason why I am a bit heavy this evening, but we'll try to do our best here this evening as we move forward with tonight's program. And tonight, most of the discussion will be spent, or a good portion of the program will be spent on an international matter, and that is why I feel a bit heavy at this time, because I am saying now, based on what I've seen, I've heard, I've read, the murder, yes, I do use my words very loosely, and I am saying the murder of none other than the opposition leader from Russia, that is Mr. Alexei. Mr. Alexei Navalny, yes, he was basically brought to his knees by a regime of Mr. Putin that has not been relenting. And so Mr. Alexei was found dead, they say, sometime yesterday morning. But we'll be going into some discussions as to, the man himself, in terms of what the price that he had to pay in terms of speaking truth to power and trying to free his Russian people from the clutches of none other than a dictator in the name of Mr. Vladimir Putin, who is the president of Russia for some time. So that Dominicans really had me, and it still have me, because what I've been getting in terms of news clips, audio messages. I have a good friend of mine who is from Russia, by the way, but who doesn't live in Russia. And when I spoke to her, she too was very, very much concerned as to what is going on in her country and what has been taking place in her country of late. And so I'll be giving you a little snippet information as to some of what she told me as it pertains to the very, very inhumane treatment that is meted out to anybody, all and sundry that is, once you are not part and parcel, or you are not singing from the same hymn sheet of Mr. Vladimir Putin. And so folks, it is said, or it was once said by MLK, that what happens to one person directly, it has the propensity, it has the tendency, or it may happen to you indirectly or directly someday. And so that is why what happens over there sometime, I normally take time to digest the information and bring it to you guys to the best of my ability as it pertains to we ourselves taking a stance, a positive stance that is, against tyranny, against tyrannical rule wherever it shows up its head. And so we in Dominica, we have to take note as to what is going on in our country. I make no bones about it, because where we have been as a country, it is right there. It may not be as brutal as yet as in Russia, but if it is not nipped in the bud sooner rather than later, then we may be putting our hands on our head and we may be saying, Ela, how come our country has reached to that level? And so it is these situations, these examples that is happening in other people's country, in other parts of the world, in other parts of the globe, that we have to take the necessary precaution, the necessary wise counsel, the necessary information from these situations and dovetail it to our situation right here in Dominica. And so that whatever is happening out there will not befall us as a country like how it is raining in other parts of the globe. All right. So yes, Dominicans, I feel a bit heavy because I've been following Mr. Navalny for some time, and he's one brother that really and truly I got some inspiration from as it pertains to standing up for country. And so with his death, well, his death was imminent. There's no two ways about it, and he knew that. And so I guess it came to him as no shocker, and I would want to think it came to his family and friends as no shocker as well, because he was really living his life on edge, as it were, and he knew very well it was a very risky business that he was involved in. And so anytime what befell him yesterday could have befallen him years before. He said it. And so it is tonight sort of, weighing me down a little bit, but it is what it is. Life goes on. So Dominicans, don't say it is not happening to you. It may befall us right here in Dominica, as there are already signs and tendencies of just that. All right, having said all that, Dominicans, let us start now in earnesty. We need to pay some respect, as it were, to some persons who have gone to the great beyond. And I'm talking here now about, there was a news item, a reporting of a missing man out of La Plaine. I'm being told, let me see if I get his name correctly here. I'm being told that this brother's name is Mr. Antonel Prosper. He was reported missing sometime back in La Plaine area. And based on what I've been getting from very confirmed sources, that his body washed up sometime earlier this week or last week. I think Jason, our brother in the La Plaine area, reported on that in terms of that body washing up ashore. Details are still sketchy as to how he ended up there, but based on confirmed sources, the body, the remains of brother Prosper, Antonel Prosper, showed up, lifeless that is. The picture that I have of Mr. Prosper's body is much too gruesome to show now. So out of respect for the family, friends, and loved ones of this brother, and just for the whole practice of media, there are certain things that you just don't show. When they're very, very graphic in nature, you have to use your discretion. But what I can tell you, the body was not in the best of shape when it was found in this river sea area. We call it in Dominica the Bushiwi, meaning where the sea meets the river. And so to his friends, loved ones, and persons who knew this brother from La Plaine, then prayers goes out to you at this time. telling you guys to hold strong, because it is never good to miss somebody and a couple days after their lifeless body shows up. All right. But looking at the brighter side of even that tragic situation, at least there is some sort of closure to the family, and so they can now lay Mr. Prosper to rest, and knowing that at least they have some kind of information as to what transpired. As to the details of what transpired, that I'm being told is still trying to be pieced together. All right. So that is our brother from La Plaine, and the La Plaine people, my condolences to you guys as well. Second on the list in terms of messages, it's a very, very dear sister, I call her. She worked in the health ministry for some time, a nurse by profession, and everybody who came in contact with this young lady had one thing to say about her. She was a very loving person, always had a kind word to say to whoever she made contact with. Having spoken to her a couple times, I knew that she was going through some very trying situations, but even these situations, trying as they were, they did not daunt her spirit. And so you'd be talking to that young lady, and if she did not tell you her story or her stories, then you would not know she were going through some kind of situation. All right. And so to her son, her family and friends at this time, especially her colleagues, especially those who worked with her in the health center area that is in Roseau, close to the gardens, the botanical gardens. That is where I last saw her in her uniform, doing her duty, serving Dominicans. Very industrious woman, I must say. And so Nurse Bertrand, lots of folks will know her by Nurse Bertrand. Maud Bertrand, M-A-U-D, Bertrand. She passed sometime earlier, I'm being told. Was ailing for some time, but you know how that is. That is part of life. That is a journey that we all have to go through. We born, we live, we die. What really matters is how we live that life. All right. And so, just knowing this Maud for a little while, I can say comfortably that she lived an exemplary life, and persons who knew her very well would want to emulate something of what she left behind. All right. So as we go forward here, let me just see if I can pull a picture of her for those of you who may not have known Nurse Bertrand. Let me just see if I can pull a pic here so that persons who may not have known her will have an idea of who Nurse Bertrand is, right? Let me see if I can do that here. Yep. Okay, let me see if I can expand that camera back to that PC so you can have an idea of just who that lady is. All right, folks. See that lovely smile right here. Okay, so that is the nurse we're talking about, Nurse Bertrand, who passed earlier. All right, Dominicans, so I hope you had a good view as to just who we are talking about here tonight. All right, thank you very much indeed. All right, let me just run through that list, that very long list of persons who are there, 200 plus persons here already. But I know some of you, most of you, if not all of you, like to hear your name mentioned, that is, and so I'll be doing just that in just a bit. Frances Vidal, you're there, Matthew Nelson, Joe Benjamin, Janet Damir, Claire Liblantit, Laini Litham, Bernice Regis Maroni, Makima Seraphine, Mari Shasu Kalti, yes, Alistair Irish, Anthea Robin Victor, Medora Jacinthia Pear, Alex Batley. We have here Lily Charles, Milky Parilla Winston, Dana, Philbert Peterson, Sherlon Gis, Cecilia, Bedminister, Anthony, Billy Anthony, Marian Prowley, not Marian Prowley, Marian Powley, sorry, Francisca Deluge. We have one that goes by Faye Didashin. My friend, good afternoon to you indeed. Claire Liblantit. We also have some Jadani George, good evening to you. Irresistible Cordelia, Colbert Matthew, Marshall Lawrence, Angela Roy, Patricia Fontaine, Leticia Mills, Franklin Timothy, Cynthia Shillingford. Franklin is asking how old was he. This brother was up in age. He wasn't that old, but he was up in age. All right, Franklin, the brother from La Plaine. Danny Bertrand, Jean Thomas Jeremy, Virginia Nicholas, Penelope Reed, Kirsten Richards, Kenda Nicholas, Ivinia Joseph, Ensign Williams, Rosie Mango, Samantha Sandra, yes, TJ Things, Chrissy Latouche, good evening to you, Celia King, Carrie Lockhart Savage, Yo Marie, we have what here, Cheyenne, yes, or Shiny Williams, Ali James, good evening to you, Wellborn Hector, Georgette Henry, Janice Felix, Royston Francis, Brother Dave Bertrand says, rest in peace, Maud. My condolences to the family and friends. Mark Namara, Casey Sherry, Ethel Bethel Joseph, Magdalene Paul, Kingsley Brooks, Thai Francis, Patricia Fontaine, Joseph Parilla, Georgette Henry, Brother V.C. Bird in Antigua and Barbuda at this time, locked in. Good evening to you, bro. Hope all is well with you. Claudette Durand, Daphne Uzeb. Daphne, good evening to you and your family as well. Laurie, Mary, I love you. Celia King says, hi, what? Hi, Shocky. Janet Damier, Patricia Fontaine, I think I mentioned that name already. Who else we have here? Martin, John Baptist, Junella, Defoe, Finder, Regis, Ron, Joseph, Innocent, what? Innocent, what is that there? Innocente Joseph, yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. Carla Guy, Valda Ilwa, Bertil Birmingham, Norma Thomas, Irvin Win Rossi, Nazrin Prince, Georgette Henry, R.D. Rafa, Curlin Prospect Joseph. VC Britt says, good evening, Lofty. Waiting to hear my name called. Well, I just did that, my bro. I hope you are okay, you and your family over there in Antigua and Barbuda. Gwyneth Latouche, Marina Charles, Joyce Smith, or Josie Smith, Norris Charles, good evening to you. Mary Boye, Claudia Carlton, Carrie Francis, Candy Hamilton, Mariette Canuville, Pretty Joseph, Paula John Baptist, Judy Charles St. John. Also, I got some private messages here as well. Matthew, you're locked in as well. Matthew says, hi, Lofty, I'm in the listen and viewing audience. We also have Lucinda McDowell Thole, you're also there. Good evening to you as well. Wells All Waters, Mary Garraway, and the list goes on and on and on. All right, folks, but in the interest of time, we have to get it going here in terms of the information to come. But thank you very much for tuning in to tonight's program. Folks, this evening, in terms of contents for the program, or content of the program tonight, we will be touching on basically two scenarios tonight. One, as I said before, I will be bringing you some information as to the life and times of Brother Navalny, that was the opposition leader. He's dead now, in Russia. And so I'll be bringing you those information, very pertinent information, and comparing and contrasting or juxtaposing his life over there in Russia and bringing it home to us so that we can try to make some sense of just what is happening to people like him, people who decide to take that stance for country, and the price, sometimes the ultimate price that is, that these people have to face because of this speaking truth to power. And so whenever someone like that takes that position in life, I normally like to give them the praises while they're alive. And I've been following this brother, I can tell you, for some time, and he has been an inspiration to me. So he's deaf. Though I knew in my spirit it was coming, but you know, death always have a way of rocking you the wrong way. And so Thursday it was, no, yesterday, Friday, he sort of had me down for the better part of the day. But it is what it is, life goes on. And so once we have been done and dusted with that scenario over there, there's also a scenario as well that is playing out right here in Dominica, where opposition figures in this country, Dominica, yes, the Commonwealth, your country, my country, have been prosecuted as well for some time. And so after we have done with Navalny, it is a good platform, a good shoot-off to get to our situation in Dominica, where we heard of late, yesterday, a man who was Prime Minister of Dominica, Mr. Edison Chenfield James, was locked up for some time at the Magistrates Court in Dominica. And Mr. Bird, those of you guys in the region listening, those of you further afield listening, yes, it happened yesterday in Dominica. A man who served Dominica as Prime Minister of his country was locked up yesterday for some time, at least 20 minutes to half an hour, I'm being told. He was placed in a holding cell at the Magistrates Court on the Bayfront in Roseville. For what, you may ask? And I am telling you, without any fear of contradiction, for some trumped up bogus charge of incitement. I have relayed this story a number of times, and so I'm not telling you guys what somebody told me. I'm telling you what I know as a fact happened. These charge were a number of opposition figures in Dominica, persons who are not singing from the hymn sheet of Mr. Roosevelt's carry. They are laced with this charge that is hanging over their heads for some time, as to incitement. Incitement to do what, you may ask? Skerrit said, incited or incitement to overthrow his government. That is the most nonsensical piece of information, or one of the most nonsensical piece of information, to me, I have heard thus far, coming from the mouth of none other than Roosevelt Skerrit. But just like Mr. Vladimir Putin in Russia, how he's dealing with his political opponents, so too in Dominica, the regime that Roosevelt Skerrit in Dominica is in charge of, they are clamping down on opposition forces. And so that makes for a very good documentary now as to what is happening over there and what is happening here in Dominica. And that is why it pains me the wrong way as to the death of this brother. Because if the regime in Dominica would have their way, then the death of opposition forces in Dominica, those deaths are imminent as well. And so, like my brother Dice said in one of his winning numbers, whenever you choose to speak against your government, you are basically labeled a wanted man. And so, it is what it is. I can be labeled a wanted man or not. That will not deter me from speaking truth to power in this country. My conscience, as I said before, and will say it again and again and again, will not let me rest in peace if I don't speak for and on behalf of my people in this country. And like Mr. Navalny, like others who have gone down that road before, in terms of suffering, going through that torture stake situation of having their life be cut off prematurely, yours truly also, I am prepared for whatever will may come. And just listening to Brother Navalny over the number of years, there's a point that I recognize that he reached in his journey whereby death could not hold him back. And so that message was like a fire in his bones, as in the good old book of Ezekiel, with that message in his bones, as it is recorded there. It must be let out. And so I remember and I recognize that this brother, Navalny now, had that message. And he crossed that fear barrier. It was no longer a hindrance. It was no longer a deterrent to him. Because when you're dealing with dictators, all dictators, A-L-L, all, capitalized that is, they all have the same tendencies, the same characteristics, very, very same. If you are a thorn in their flesh, if you stand in their way, they will do anything and everything to eliminate you. And so I'm not living in La La Land in Dominica. Where we are in Dominica, we are right there on that track. So just like Mr. Vladimir Putin had Mr. Navalny and others in prison who oppose his policies and government or governance style, so too in Dominica, we have a regime led by none other than Roosevelt Skerrit, have opposition forces as well before the courts, lingering in limbo, as it were, as to trump up charges, whatever they are. And that is one of the characteristics of dictators. That is how they behave. They will pin a charge on you, knowing fully well it is not true. There's no truth to it. But you now have to find resources. You now have to find time. You now have to go through the hassle and hurdles of defending yourself against a trumped up charge or trumped up charges. And some of you who are in Dominica, some of you live overseas, who are from Dominica, you are maybe thinking or of the mindset that what is unfolding in your country is a joke. I am telling you, I am putting you on note, it is not a joke. It is as real as daylight. It is as real as the sun will shine tomorrow, what is happening in your country, Dominica. And so the thousands of you who are viewing now live, you need to take that message and let it be saturated into your system now and understand what country you are living in. And to the extra thousands of you who will be listening or watching later, the same apply to you guys as well. Some leaders rather, like Mr. Vladimir Putin and others, those who have this kind of WAP kind of mentality and thinking in terms of governance of the country. They think that their subjects are, are their possessions. They think that the people that they govern don't have a say at all, or should not have a say at all, especially if you're not singing from the same hymn sheet. And so what did Mr. Navalny wanted for his Russian people? All he wanted was a bit more freedom for his people. My friend in Russia who I spoke to, well, not in Russia, she's from Russia, but living outside of Russia. She basically told me, Lofty, I had to run from that place because things are getting exponentially worse from day to day, month to month, year on in Russia. That is her country. And she chose not to put foot back in Russia until Mr. Vladimir Putin is out of the way, one way or the other. That was her sentiments. And so if you as a national of your country choose not to go back to your country because of the type of governance, poor malgovernance in your country, it is a very sad state of affairs. And so all this brother wanted was for his people to live much more free, like people in the quote-unquote liberated world do. My friend told me, Lofty, we as Russians, especially Russian women, there are certain things that is just a no-no to us. A no-no. She told me if you go outside Russia, especially in the public place, and you're protesting with a mere white paper, nothing is written on there, nothing, just standing in defiance of the system, you will be picked up by the thugs, she called them, of Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin. And what is happening today in your country? The very same thing. Anybody in Dominica who chooses to stand in defense of country and is going against the tide, going against the grain, where governance is concerned, they are being monitored, they are being followed, they are being targeted. I know that. And so I'm not telling you something that I am not living through. Anytime you speak up against the system, you're a target. And the rationale or the reason for the targeting is to put you away for some time. Set you aside. Eliminate you if needs be. Because why? You are anti, it is perceived, the system. Yeah. There's no free speech in Russia. Absolutely none. A matter of fact, that medium that I'm on there now, that is banned in Russia as per government policy. Nothing is coming out. Everything has to be sanctioned by the Kremlin. Everything in terms of speech. Everything and anything in terms of information coming out from Russia needs to be vetted by the powers that be, or else it will not see the light of day. What are we seeing here in our country? Slowly but surely creeping in. It is the very same tendency. You have a radio station in Dominica that is supposed to be, it prides itself on the nation's station, meaning the people's station, the people of Dominica, primary station of information. What is happening there? The list goes on and on and on and on. And so who don't like to hear me, then that is left to you, but I have to speak it. I have to say it as it is. The level of scrutiny, the level of vetting that goes on there at that nation station, people, you'll swear and say that you're living on some path in Moscow. That goes without asking. And again, I'm not telling you things off my head. I'm telling you things that I went through. And I'm going through at this time. Things that persons in Dominica are subjected to at this time as we speak. So don't think, people, it is far-fetched what is happening many, many miles away. It is not happening here. And so some of you love to live your life in this sort of little bubble, that it is Dominica you know, and Dominica you know, and Dominica you know only. You now need to stretch your imagination a little more, and try to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Navalny, the brother in Russia, was locked up how many times? Being harassed. For what? Just trying to free his people. Speaking about corruption. Speaking about corrupt leaders. Prime Minister, President, ministers, the cronies. I listened to a documentary where he said, every 5 days in campaigning, when he was on the streets of his people, every 5th day, the police picked him up. Every 5th day, they picked up, persons who were closely associated with him, doing his thing for and on behalf of his people. And after a while, that came as a norm. So he was just expected. His people, they were just expected, or they were expecting to be picked up by the police, the Tomakuts of Vladimir, every 5 days. But that did not deter them. What are we seeing here in Dominica? The Tomakuts of the regime in Dominica, whenever you or anybody go out on the street to stand up for their rights, then you have this little, let me say, policemen for now. They are monitoring you. They are standing up in all street corners, watching your move, as to that is not your country. That is not your country that you choose to exercise your rights in your country. Last week, yes, last week it was. I saw Athi and them, they were somewhere in the gardens area by the Bath Road end, the southern end of the botanical gardens. You know, I guess they were walking around and, you know, the community there by the basketball court area. And lo and behold, I was driving my vehicle and I saw a Totomakut, one of these officers, the spies, one of the spies, all the way like in the center under that arch little thing where people get married in that area, standing right there from a distance, and his eyes, they are focused on that little grouping, 10, 12, under 20 of Dominicans just walking and speaking. That is how dictatorship behaves. That is how dictatorships are enshrined and comes as part of your normal living. And that is just one instant I gave you guys about, you know, that engagement. Whenever these people go out, whenever we are on the streets, as if, well, we are not supposed to be a free and unhindered people when we are going about exercising our rights. I am a law abider, and so if there's anything or anyone that is breaking the law or the laws in Dominica, I will be the first one to say, you need not do that, let the law take its course. But it is that level of fear, it is that level of these wannabe dictators, they are consumed with fear that whenever, if ever, they see people gathered together, it sends chills down their spine. And before anything like that can show its head, they are already in a mode to dismantle it. That is what has been happening in Russia. It is still happening in Russia today. That is what is happening in Dominica, the Commonwealth, as we speak. And so, folks, I know my life is not mine, but as I told you guys already, I think I've already switched. So whenever whoever ready to take me home, then that's fine. But yours truly will not be shut up. I will speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And so mentally I'm prepared. Psychologically, I am already prepared for whatever will may come. Because I know if it is not nipped in the bud, if the people who are supposed to have the power, the real power in a country, if Dominicans don't or are not prepared to exercise that power, then what I am telling you people, it is inevitable. And so that is why I am, what is it? They say pray for the best, but hope for the best, but expect the worst. That's my mentality now. That is how it is, and that is how it will be. Because anytime you decide to chant down a system that is not working for its people, they will come after you with the full might. That's what it is. So just like the brother Navalny in Russia, being harassed, poisoned a certain time. I think in 2013, 14, thereabout. He was poisoned. He said it. Doctors proved it. His medical report proved it. And he wasn't poisoned by his friends. He was poisoned by the regime. Wanted to eliminate him then. On a flight from Serbia. Right in that hotel where he stayed, he said, the agents of the Russian oligarchy poisoned him right there with some nerve agent. Very hard to detect, very hard to trace. And that is the length at which these dictators will go. That is the length. So the medical report from when he was flown to Germany said that basically he was poisoned with a chemical, an agent called Novichok. That is this chemical warfare, these chemical warring agents that the Russians and this kind of leftist countries developed in the 90s as part of the chemical warfare in business. Yeah. He was poisoned with this agent that is much more potent in nature than a lot more agents out there. So the sarin gas and all, these are joke compared to what he was poisoned with. This Novichok agent. You can research it for yourself. Novichok. Yes, research it for yourself. He said it. The medical report in Germany proved it, that was all over. Most likely got contaminated for his clothing or whatever it is, and once it is there, then that's it. The guy fell down in the plane, and basically he said that he knew he was on his way out. The plane had to make an emergency landing, got him into some hospital, and even right there, the agents were controlling, what went on with him and what didn't go on with him. And finally, after 48 hours, it is said, the reporting said, after 48 hours, he was supposed to be a dead man. So after 48 hours, the Kremlin, the regime, the rogue regime of Vladimir Putin, decided to ease him up from wherever he was. And had him flown into Germany, and he was resuscitated there. That was just one attempt on his life. There are many more attempts on his life. And finally, he succumbed because of the wanted man syndrome that Dai spoke about. Dai sang about. Yeah? My friend from Russia, in conversation with her, she told me, Lofty, in these prison situations in Russia, the holding cells, the cells that you're placed in, it is about 6 foot wide, 6 foot across. So those of you who go to funeral service in Dominica, the depth of the grave, 6 feet. Supposed to be 6 feet. Some of them are not 6 feet, but supposed to be 6 feet. That is the width of the cells in Russia. And about 10 feet deep by about 10 feet high. So basically, she told me it's like a concrete box that you're in with very little ventilation. And so that goes against the treatment, that goes against all standards as it pertains to prisoners' rights and human rights and conventions and everything. But these guys are worried. Putin is running his country how he sees fit. Man is a madman, unknown fool. And if you watch how he walking, he walking mad. Putin will sit down on a table. If you're watching the news clips, he'll sit down on a table that is 30, 40 feet long. All his men, he's supposedly, henchmen doing his dirty work for him on one end of that table, 30, 40 feet away. And he's at the head of that table. That picture alone speaks volume of the level of fear that is in that man's psyche. He don't trust no one. So if you can have your henchmen, your henchwomen, your Gestapos, as it were, pretty close to, 40, 50 feet away from you, and you guys are supposedly having a meeting to continue your brutality, and not even them you are trusting. The setting says it all. This brother was raised up in the KGB, and it's very brutal in nature. The mind is warped. He don't see people, he see objects. And anytime you decide to stand in the way of that, then you are in for something. He's holding no prisoners. So just like Idi Amin and Stalin and these guys gone before, same kind of mentality. Same mentality. And that is where we're in this country, Dominica. Once you are not singing from the hymn sheet that they want you to sing from, there's a price on your head. Listening to a documentary with this guy just before he passed in prison. It is said he passed. Maybe they even murdered the brother in the prison. You don't know, because information out of Russia, it is slim as nil, slim as nothing. So when the guards told you that he was walking and he fell or whatever it is, you never know, they may have poisoned him again. His parents now came for his body, and not even the body the parents can find to at least give him a proper burial. The holding cell that he was in, spending how much years in prison for nothing. The walls, I'm being told, the vertical walls, they were plastered in such a way that they were left rough for a reason. His mattress, it is said, when he gets up in the morning at 5 o'clock, that mattress is taken or was taken away from him for the entire day. The lights are on in his cell 24/7. So imagine that, people. You are in this sort of torture situation. Obviously, you have to die. So when the world is saying that it is because of the treatment that this brother got or was meted out to him, that they are holding the regime responsible, and to me, they cannot be more right than that. Because if your walls are clad, it's so rough that the brother cannot even lean on the wall, because his back will be bruised. Policy as well dictates that he cannot even lie on the floor when the mattress was taken or is taken. You have to be either be sitting or standing. Whenever the guards pass by, that is the rudiment. Either standing or sitting. So imagine you're in that space for 25 years. Imagine you're in that space for 10 years. Obviously, it must take a toll on your body. So it wasn't regular prison that this brother was taking. So if he was sent to prison on trumped up charges, but at least the situation was humane enough, maybe he would have been alive today. Maybe we would not be having that conversation this evening. But it is like you go there and the circumstances there, the treatment there will for sure have you deteriorate. It is said in the same documentary, this brother was not allowed food to come into him from family, from friends, from nobody. Not even from the prison kitchen or canteen, or however they call it. He was supposed to buy food. It is only what the wardens gave him that he could partake from. And so, based on that, it stretches my mind to tell me it is a systematic way now of ensuring that he was malnourished. And so obviously, his death was inevitable. What are we seeing in ourselves today? You hear the stories of persons who have been there and back about the kind of treatment that these holding cells have. You saw, what's her name? Went up in the prison, I think for Christmas, and interviewed a couple of them. And they were speaking about their stories. And at least we got an idea, just an idea, of the setting, the situation of some of the people up in Stock Farm that they go through on a daily basis. So Dominicans, don't think we're not right there. Don't think we're not right there. And the political prisoners now, they are targeted for much more inhuman treatment. And so just like Edison James, Hector Sparks John, and who else? Lennox Linton, and who else? Danny once upon a time, and you know, all these folks are now before the court fighting, I must say, for their life. Because these cases, people, these charges don't carry 5-year sentences. These charges, in terms of penalty, don't carry a slap on the wrist. And so God forbid now that any of these brothers would be found in this kangaroo kind of court setting guilty. You know what time it is. So there would be another Navalny in Dominica in terms of the treatment now, waiting to die or put there to die. And that is as real I can put it. That is as unadulterated I can put it. So you can understand what is at stake, people. These guys will not relent. Roosevelt Skerritt knew jolly well there was no coup, as he said in his warped mind. That is a Putin type of thinking that there. Somebody, people wanted to overthrow his illegitimate government, because it is illegitimate as to where I'm concerned. Once you do win something fair and square in terms of elections, it is illegitimate. But be it as you may, the people have not been able to exercise the authority to deal with that scenario head on. So you are there. But you know jolly well there was no move, absolutely no move, to overthrow your government as you said. And as a result, you pin that bogus charge of incitement on these brothers and have them being dragged before a court ever so often to defend their name and to defend that charge. And it's not just to defend. If you go in court and the state was paying for representation, that is all well and good. These people have to come up with their lawyers and their representatives to defend themselves over trumped up bogus charges. And so when a man, a past Prime Minister of Dominica, Edison James, yesterday news broke, he was placed in a cell at the magistrate's court. A stinking cell, I must add, because that is where all these convicts and whatever it is, they pee, they poo, they do all kind of things in these cells. And these cells are not cleaned properly. They are not sanitized properly. And you take a man of Edison James' worth, Edison James' caliber, who made and implemented policies Roosevelt carried and others, so that you benefited from. And you had the audacity, or you have the audacity to have that man on a charge, 80 years of age, dragging him before a court. To answer bogus, trumped up charges of incitement. Incitement to what? That is only in your mind, my brother. And if you were a sane leader, if you knew what good for you, you would have just dismissed those charges. Tell your DPP, as she normally does with other cases, just, say the state is not interested in these matters anymore because there's nothing to it. You brought in 4 people from where? CARICOM. They did their investigation on your request. They told you in their report that there was nothing. They saw no evidence of what you're talking about. But still, you are hell-bent, just like Balaam, on this political witch hunt to ensure that these people stay before that kangaroo, that court that is jumping here and everywhere. You have them in there, struggling, fighting for their life. Just like Mr. Alexei Navalny in Russia. Just like Mr. Alex Navalny from Russia and the others. So the world telescopes and not telescopes, the world cameras, sorry, they may be much more focused on Russia and Navalny's situation. Because why? It is a much bigger country, bigger consequences. All know Russia and Putin is in Ukraine. He's watching Poland. He's eyeing the EU to destroy what is left of civilization. But they are not focused on this little speck, this little dust called Dominica, where it is just a mirror image. What is taking place in Russia is happening in Dominica. But by people speaking up, the word is going out. And so when you're ready, Roosevelt, when you're ready, just like Vladimir shut down the internet in Dominica, when you're ready, run out Flow as a company, run out Digicel as a company, and only have your media in Dominica to push your propaganda. Because with the look of things, that is the road we are on. And so maybe you need to do that for persons, some people, even your sycophants themselves, to open their eyes, as it were, and realize, but wait a minute. But that may be too late. That's how it is in this country. We are right there. We are right there, people. And so that is why it pained me yesterday in hearing the death of this brother. And it pained me even more yesterday. The universe have a way of lining up and putting the ducks in line. But Dominicans are so politically, well, let me qualify and say some Dominicans. And I'm not going to take back my words because that's what I see. Some Dominicans are so politically dumb that they're not even taking note of what is happening, what is unfolding in their country on an international scale. How the ducks are lining up. So you had the death of Navalny yesterday by the regime of Russia. And you had the locking up of a prime minister, former, yesterday self, in Dominica. And so the writing is on the wall. It has been on the wall for some time. Who is taking note? If these brothers had did anything, in my estimation, because I was there, I saw, I heard, I was there with my camera, bringing every word, every action live to the world. I was there, Mote La, from start to end. And so if in my mind, these brothers had did anything out of the way, I wouldn't be there supporting their foolishness. I would say something, you know something? You guys went a little overboard. But consciously, nothing was said that warrants this kind of reprisal from the regime, the rogue regime, I must add now, in Dominica. Why these guys are still harassed. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 8 years on. February, in February, yes. It was in February 17th. 8 years spot on. And you have these guys in front of kangaroo court, bringing lawyers from outside, paying lawyers big money from Dominican money. Dominican money that's supposed to have been doing much better for them and the economy and their situation in Dominica. Paying millions of dollars to your, how I should call them. Let me not say how I should call them now, because at least I would want to think some of these guys are still professionals. So let me hold back a little bit as to really what I'm thinking now of how to articulate how these guys are behaving. Millions of dollars being spent. Monies that could have been placed in the economy to fix drains in Roseau, to give NEP their monies on time, to give the elderly from $3 meager $100 to at least $500 or $600 or even $700 in their twilight years. Monies that could have been used, distributed among the hard-working civil servants to give them a raise and increase instead of that 0-0 nonsense. Monies that could have gone into buying proper vehicles so that when Dominicans call on the police, they can respond appropriately and in time. Monies that could have been gone into at least securing 1 or 2 vehicles, buses, whatever it is, for the hard-working nurses and doctors who have to leave your hospital, our hospital, at all hours of the day and in the night. And they have to be struggling for a ride by the roadside. That is where this money should be going. Not trying to persecute and prosecute innocent people. That is where this money should be going. Put these monies in schools to have feeding programs for these malnourished children that are coming to school every day. And teachers have to be struggling out of their pocket to find things. Find food for them. Put that money in the struggling grotto that some financial institutions in Dominica have to every month bail out the grotto because the elderly that you say you care about don't have. That is where this money should be going. That is where this money should be going. You have a Roseau that you and your wife said you are going to build and refurbish, and what kind of foolishness? That is where this money should be going. Let our city, give our city that kind of uplift. Put those lines in drains and docks so that you don't have these hanging hazards over our heads. That is what you said. And Dominicans playing as if they forget your words, my brother. Put those monies there. Put those monies in our cultural events so that a man like King Dice don't have to be going on Q95 and having people pledge to give him 100 US and 200 US and 100 EC dollars and whatever it is, so that he can reign comfortably as monarch of Dominica, having won 10 times, talking truth. That is where this money should go. Put it into Calypso, put it into Queen Show, put it into things and events and activities that will uplift your people, my brother. And don't have that characteristic like Vladimir Putin. Because you are in the seat, that prestigious seat, you are on this witch hunt to get people. No. And that is what Dominicans should really now come around and demand in numbers that these things happen. That is what we should be demanding. Some of you so-called laborites, you better be very, very careful what you're harboring today, because you never know. Just like Vladimir Putin have his henchmen 30, 40 feet away from him. Your leader or your demigod, that is how the approach is with these people. They are feeding you with crumbs, but they don't trust you. So all of you who have these little bags of monies and running around like headless chickens trying to buy people for that regime, you people better be careful. And I'm very serious. I'm infuriated about it. Our country deserves better. Our country deserves better. Roosevelt Skerritt said how many years ago, I cannot remember now, maybe 2005 or somewhere around there, years ago, his government, a matter of fact, he said that in Parliament, his government is going to look into the situation of removing Dominicans under that hazardous Kenfield cliff and making that bypass from Wavin Cock to O2 Trade Kenfield Junction by which is there. Jacques Jordi, according to Isaac Baptiste. Not a drumbeat in that direction. And so that is where these millions of dollars should be going. You have Dominicans every... It doesn't have to rain, people. It doesn't have to rain. When it rains, it is like out of control. But it doesn't have to rain. Stones are usually rolling from that cliff. Whenever I pass there, I normally say that those of you believe in the Almighty is a Dominican. Because it's only a Dominican that will look out for his or his own like that. This thing is so dangerous. If you look up, you will see the cracks in the mountain above your head. It is just a matter of time before a piece comes down. And God forbid, people dead and injured. And he said it. The record is there. He said it. And Dominicans, you guys tend to forget too quickly. The man took rust from your shores. And watch Portsmouth. Watch Portsmouth. Portsmouth is not nearly a ghost town again. It is a ghost town, I can tell you. Walk into Portsmouth. A gentleman and I, we normally talk ever so often. The guy told me, Lofty, I was by the market square and I looked in the southern direction to Borough Square at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning in Portsmouth. A place that was bubbling with life and activity. And I watched and I could just see a clear path. Not a vehicle, not a person on that piece of stretch. From the market area to Borough Square. That is the Portsmouth your government has created for you, the Portsmouth people. And telling you or told you something else or something better is coming. Where is it? 9 students in a complex. 9 students in a complex. And you have all these big buildings where these landlords are reeling under debt. Banks are in their throat. And you have Chinese in Dominica now adding insult to injury, come in and take over this country. Like Wudans, working by night. That's how these Chinese are. They are working like Wudans by night. So that by the time you wake in the morning, figuratively speaking, your country is no more. And that can only permeate, that can only be left to fester because of bad governance. And so that document that you guys signed with the Chinese government or the Chinese regime or the Chinese firm, we don't know. That should have been part of the arrangement. Chinese coming to build, but the bread, some of the bread in terms of dollars need to stay in the country. Chinese building their own complex everywhere they go. They build in Goodwill School. They take the planning division yard for their own. They just take the yard for their own. And Dominicans, you guys are there like zombies, just walking around and seeing that level of brutality. And you guys are saying nothing. You guys are prepared to do nothing. A Goodwill School that was once built by Egbert Charles, I'm being told, that served Dominican students well, was torn down right before your eyes. Your history erased, it vanished from your eyes. And Chinese occupiers are there on the outskirts of your city. Say they're building a school for you. Dominicans cannot build anymore. You have only Chinese truckers inside there hauling materials to dump in Silver Lake or wherever they go in with it. That is a level of madness that is on steroids. Which other country that Chinese occupiers would come and just take over country's economy like that and the citizens remain mute? Dominicans, you need to wake up. What have you drunk? What have you eaten? Who put you to sleep? I have to ask those questions. You have truckers. Truckers have equipments in Dominica that can add some value to the construction industry, the infrastructural industry in the country, and you guys are just there in limbo. You're just there in la la land. Banks on your back because you cannot pay your loan. And you are seeing these Chinese invaders, I call them, every day passing up and down with their big lorries, 18-wheeler, 16-wheeler trucks, rolling through your country. And you guys are saying and doing nothing about it. You guys are not standing up for your rights. What is it? You guys are not hungry enough? Well, they say a hungry man is an angry man. So I guess you guys are not hungry enough. So I'm waiting. But I pray to God that you guys be very hungry very soon. Because if it's only hungriness that can make a man or men move, I pray that hunger state just take over you guys like lightning. Because something needs to be done, Dominicans. Something needs to be done. Chinese in Wesley, Chinese in Roseau, Chinese in the hospital, Chinese in hotels, China. It's like, have we become a province of China? Have we become a province of China? It is sad, it is sickening, Dominicans, to see what is happening in our country in the 2024. It is lamentable. But that can only continue to go on if, as Martin Luther King once said, if a people back is bent. And obviously the invaders like the Chinese and your dictatorial leaders will continue to ride your backs, because that posture of you bending it, they will hop on and continue to ride it. So it is past time. It is past that time that you guys need to stand up straight. You know, take that posture and stand, so that it is not so easy for these people to continue riding your backs. It is sad. And every day I wake up in this country, there is a weight that I have to carry, because I am seeing this country is going down a road that it is irreversible. And the sadder thing, it is the people now who are supposed to be correcting that, or putting themselves in a position to correct that. The movement there, it is very, very slow. Snail-like pace. It is sad, Dominicans. So just to wrap up on Mr. Navalny and Russia and, you know, the empire of Moscow, as we compare and juxtapose it to our situation in Dominica, Dominicans, we need to do something about our situation. We need to. We need to find it within ourselves. We need to. Now, as we, what's the time? 7:42, 28 more minutes to go. Just to conclude on that point, really constant victimization that goes on in this country, the constant prosecution and persecution of opposition forces in Dominica. You had that same, whatever it is, that gathering. A number of opposition forces were there. People were there. And while some are lingering in that state of being harassed, you have some persons who were promoted and they are enjoying seemingly the cream of the crop, as it were, having been purchased by the regime that is not relenting. So, for example, Brother Joseph Isaac, he was part and parcel of that activity where people stood for country. And in some kind of magical, voodoo-like, how you call it? How my partner Bupley, gone but may his soul rest in peace, would call it. Magically, he was just let off the hook. And it was intentional because there was a price on his head to be purchased and bought with 30 pieces of mere silver. And so magically, after the police, 5 o'clock one morning, arrested Joseph Isaac and brought him into police station for questioning as it relates to that matter, where what I saw, Dominicans stood for their rights and they stood firm. Those charges, or that charge of incitement, it was never preferred on Joseph Isaac's head. And to crown that situation, Joseph Isaac is now sitting in the chair of Speaker of the House of Assembly in Dominica. What a travesty of justice, to say the least. What a travesty of justice. And some of you guys maybe think I am just talking. Some of you guys maybe think I'm just talking off my head. Let me show you, for those persons who don't know who Joseph Isaac is. Let me show you who Joseph Isaac is, because we have plenty of people listening and watching this program globally. This picture here is Joseph Isaac, people. That was one of the people who attended and participated in the peaceful assembly that was held in March of 2017. That is Joseph Isaac. That is now, people, the Speaker of the House in Dominica, comfortably purchased by the regime in Dominica. And as I told you, the record is there. This brother, Joseph Isaac, I have no problem with Joseph Isaac as a man, but I'm just telling you the facts as it is. Joseph Isaac was one of the people who said in Dominica already that Roosevelt Skerrit is a dictator. He said it, but that was when he was on the other side, politically. He said it how many times? But having said Roosevelt was a dictator, then the same regime got away to buy him, purchase him, to shut him up, to stuff his mouth with a position. They put a robe on him. And so right about now, things that this brother said then, he dare not say it today. And so that is what we are saying. That is what we are seeing as it pertains to these kind of trumped-up charges. If it was good for the goose, it's supposed to be good for the gander. And so if the meeting was a meeting of incitement, as you said, Joseph Isaac was one of them that attended the meeting, that spoke at that meeting as well. So there was, to me, in my mind, a charge of incitement that was supposed to be placed as a bounty on his head too. So what happened to that? That is the multi-million-dollar question. And folks, having spoken to a lawyer that told me the legal ramifications of that charge of incitement. The lawyer told me, Lofty, this charge is so serious of a charge. It is not really and truly the people who did the quote-unquote vandalism in Roseau that night that most primarily will be held accountable or is being held accountable in that scenario. It is the people who the regime thinks that got them to do whatever they did. So that is how ridiculous it gets now. So the police, they are not looking for the perpetrators of the burning and the looting and the breaking and the bottle throwing. They're not looking for these people. They are looking, they are saying, for the agitators of these actions. And so that is why I am saying it is even more evident now and real that a man who is in the speaker's chair today was at that function, was a critical core member of the United Workers' Party. Then he too should have never been sitting where he's sitting today. And so that goes to show you the level of biasness. That goes to show us the level of unfair play that is working out or playing out itself in the scheme of things. So for those of you who watching abroad and you don't know who our Speaker of our House is, that is the person in question. Joseph Isaac, present Speaker of the House, who was part of that meeting that day where a charge of incitement is still hanging over the heads of a number of people there. But magically, it was washed. He was washed clean, like Pontius Pilate, after being purchased by the regime that will not relent. Let me put the crowning on the cake for you now. The icing on the cake. This Joseph Isaac said then this: where are you? Where are you? I need to get my volumes up there. Hold on, people. Let me just see if I can get volume on this thing here. Something is not working out. Oh, sorry. I think I spot my error. I had my mute button down on my console. Yeah. Lucky W will come back to you. We need to go back to Mr. Isaac. Now, Isaac said this, people, sometime back.
Dominicans have to decide whether they want a dictator to run the country or they want a team of people who stand in for democracy to run the country. And in fact, I discussed that with some of my team members yesterday. We have to put that on the table fair and square. People have to decide, do you want a man, Roosevelt Scarlett, to lead the country who has built mountain and mountain of dictatorship, or whether you want patriots of this country who have sacrificed their whole life. I don't have to follow on them. You know what Lennox have sacrificed. You know what people like Ezekiel Battle have sacrificed. You know what Joshua have sacrificed. And I can call you other names like Danny Lugay, arrested before. So we have to decide what we want in this country.
All right, Dominicans, let's hear Joseph Isaac at least 2 more times just to drive it home. And then we're going to dissect that statement and we'll bring this program to a wrap tonight.
Dominicans have to decide whether they want a dictator to run the country or they want a team of people who stand in for democracy to run the country. And in fact, I discussed that with some of my team members yesterday. We have to put that on the table fair and square. People have to decide, do you want a man, Roosevelt Kerry, to lead the country who has been mounting and mounting a dictatorship, or whether you want patriots of this country who have sacrificed their whole life. I don't have to follow on them. You know what Lennox have sacrificed. You know what people like Ezekiel Battle have sacrificed. You know what Joshua have sacrificed. And I can call you other names like Danny Lugay, arrested before. So we have to decide what we want in this country.
All right, Dominicans, having heard Joseph Isaac twice, let us go through that statement one more time with a fine-tooth comb now and dissect to you the details of what Joseph Isaac said sometime back after that incident of 2017 February.
Dominicans have to decide whether they want a dictator to run the country or they want a team of people who stand in for democracy to run the country.
Dominicans must decide whether they want a dictator to run the country or they want a team of people dedicated to democracy to run the country.
And in fact, I discussed that with some of my team members yesterday.
He said he discussed it with some of his team members yesterday. And those team members he's talking about, it is some of the very same members that are now dragged before the court in Dominica as to the charge, the bogus charge, I must add, of incitement. So these are the team members that he spoke of back then.
Have to put that on the table fair and square.
We have to put that on the table, he said, fair and square. That is part of what he told his team in that discussion.
People have to decide, do you want a man, Roosevelt Kerry, to lead the country who has...
People, he is now addressing the Dominican people. If you want a man in the name of Roosevelt Kerry to lead the country, hear Joseph Isaac well. So he come out from his team now and he's addressing the people of Dominica now. And he's saying to the people, or he's imploring to the people rather, what do we need? Whether we want one man to run the country, and you'll hear how he described that one man then.
Being mounting and mounting a dictatorship, or when...
That one man, he said, and that one man, he was referring to Roosevelt Kerry then. Whether we want that one man that has been mounting and mounting a dictatorship to run the country.
You want patriots of this country who have sacrificed their whole life. I don't have to call out.
Or, if you don't want the one man, whether you want patriots now of this country, patriots who have sacrificed their life. He said he don't have to call names, but he called a few names who have sacrificed to run this country.
And then, you know what Lennox have sacrificed? You know what people like Ezekiel Battle have sacrificed? You know what Joshua have sacrificed? And I can...
You know what Lennox have sacrificed? You know what Ezekiel Basil has sacrificed? You know what Joshua Francis has sacrificed? That was the words of Joseph Isaac then.
All the other names like Danny Lugay, arrested before. So we have to decide what we want in this country.
Okay? Danny Luger, he mentioned as well, was arrested before. And he ends by saying, we, which is what I've been saying. So I'm just echoing what's his name words, Joseph Isaac words. We, the people of Dominica, have to decide what we want for our country in terms of the governing of it. One more time, Joseph Isaac, and we'll be out in just a bit.
Dominicans have to decide whether they want a dictator to run the country or they want a team of people who are standing for democracy to run the country. And in fact, I discussed that with some of my team members yesterday. We have to put that on the table fair and straight. People have to decide, do you want a man, Roosevelt Kerry, to lead the country who has built mountain and mountain of dictatorship, or whether you want patriots of this country who have sacrificed their whole life. I don't have to call on them. You know what Lennox have sacrificed. You know what people like Ezekiel Battle have sacrificed. You know what Joshua Francis have sacrificed. And I can call you other names like Danny Luger, arrested before. So we have to decide what we want in this country. Dominicans have to decide whether they want a dictator to run the country or they want a team of people who are standing for democracy to run the country. And in fact, I discussed that with some of my team members yesterday. We have to put that on the table fair and straight. People have to decide, do you want a man, Roosevelt Kerry, to lead the country who has built mountain and mountain of dictatorship, or whether you want patriots of this country who have sacrificed their whole life. I don't have to call on them. You know what Lennox have sacrificed. You know what people like Ezekiel Battle have sacrificed. You know what Joshua Francis have sacrificed. And I can call you other names like Danny Luger, arrested before. So we have to decide what we want in this country.
All right, Mr. Joseph Isaac, thank you very much for your words then. I am willing to listen to hear what you might have to say now. Dominicans, let me see if I can wrap with this. Let me see if I can wrap up with this here. And not you, my brother. Let me see if I can wrap with this here as we bring this program to a wrap tonight. All right, we were speaking about this here a while ago. Yeah. Okay, let me just see if I can close this down, bring this back up here. Let's just see if we can put the icing on the cake now as it pertains to that Navalny brother we were speaking a while ago. And we will bring that program to a wrap in just a bit. All right? The life and times of Mr. Navalny.
The Russian prison service, by the way, said Navalny, quote, felt unwell, end quote, after a walk on Friday, and then, quote, almost immediately lost consciousness. They also said they tried to revive him without success. Chris Lucey has more now on the politician who would not be silenced.
He was one of Russia's fiercest dissidents who fell foul of the Kremlin. Alexei Navalny rose to prominence in 2012 when he ran for mayor of Moscow, came in second, and denounced the election he said was rigged by his opponent, an appointee of Vladimir Putin. Navalny described the Russian president's party as one of crooks and thieves, a rallying cry for his millions of Twitter and YouTube followers, and a thorn in Putin's side. Once, during a live stream, state police used a blowtorch to break into his office. He was jailed in 2019 after calling for unauthorized protests, then suddenly became sick with what Russian doctors called contact dermatitis, but what Navalny and his personal doctor suspected was poisoning. 2 years earlier, he was assaulted with a green dye that left a serious chemical burn in his right eye. Speaking to CBS 60 Minutes that same year, he wondered aloud why he was still alive.
Maybe they missed the good timing for it when I was less famous.
And again, speaking to CBS News, he predicted the chances of him winding up dead were high.
50%. I would be killed or I would not be killed.
Then, in the summer of 2020, the anti-corruption activist plunged into fits of agony aboard a flight forced to make an emergency landing in Siberia. Narrowly surviving, he was airlifted to Berlin, where doctors confirmed he had been poisoned with a Novichok nerve agent. After making a dramatic recovery, he told CBS 60 Minutes' Leslie Stahl that the Russian president himself was to blame.
You have said you think that Mr. Putin's responsible.
I don't think, I'm sure that he's responsible.
But Navalny made a bold return home to Russia, which denies any involvement in his illness. Upon arrival, he was arrested, not before kissing his wife Yulia goodbye. Alexei Navalny, the voice of Russia's opposition, now silenced. Chris Livesay, CBS News, Rome.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Dominicans, that is it in terms of our content basically for tonight's coverage or tonight's program. I want to thank the many of you who continue to stay the course, as it were, with the programs that we have in right here each and every Saturday. Just to give you guys a sneak peek as to the conversation we'll be having tomorrow, or the conversations, there's two of them, we'll be having tomorrow. On the first segment, we'll be having Brother Retired Public Officer, Mr. Lloyd Pascal. I know that is a voice you haven't been hearing for some time, but he's there. And he will be talking to us primarily on the month now that we are celebrating as Black people, the importance of Black History Month to us as a people. Not just in Dominica, but Black people all over. All right? So we'll be having that very, very important with him tomorrow. So I ask you guys to tune in. And also, the second segment, Dr. Thompson Fontaine is here on island. I must say he has been doing a lot of stuff with the people around Dominica, but he has graced us his presence tomorrow from 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. that is. So once we are done with Mr. Pascal, Mr. Fontaine, that is the leader of Team Dominica, will make his presence here and will bring us up to speed with some local issues as it pertains to us in Dominica. All right, so you guys want to be in tune for that all-important discussion tomorrow with a world-renowned economist in the name of Dr. Thompson Fontaine. And so it promises to be two very, very informative discussions tomorrow, and I ask you guys to tune in then. All right, so guys, that is it in terms of content for tonight's conversations. I hope that you guys enjoyed every bit of it, and I'm wishing you guys a splendid evening, whatever is left of your evening. I know I took 2 hours from it already. Thank you very much. I just wish you guys a very splendid and productive evening.